Hi, I'm Kendall. Welcome to my greenhouse. Today I'm going to do a book review for you of The 5-Minute Gardener. This book was just released and I'm trying to get this video out to you quickly because she has some bonuses available right now and she has some sort of webinar thing based on the book and the book release in about a week. And so I thought I'd go over some points from the book, some thoughts about perspective from a flower gardener on this book, and help you just decide if you want to buy it, or maybe you bought it already and you're just curious about what somebody else thinks about it. So the title's The 5-Minute Gardener by Nicole Burke. She's written a couple other books. I have not read them. I do follow her on Instagram and YouTube. Her company is called Gardenary, and she does a lot of raised bed veggie gardening. So she created a company like 10 years ago and they install raised beds in people's backyards for them. And that's kind of her gardening niche. So pretty different from mine. I do have a kitchen garden, which is why I decided to purchase this book, because I thought maybe there would be some good ideas in here for my own little garden right off of my kitchen. And I like to grow herbs and things like that. So that's why I bought this book. If you are a 100% flower gardener, probably don't bother, because it really is based on planting, tending, and harvesting crops. So this would probably not be very useful to you, but you can watch the rest of this video and decide if there is anything else in here that you might be interested in. So I just got this book, obviously, a couple days ago because it was just released. So these are my initial thoughts. I kind of come at books like this with a perspective of being curious about how others are thinking about gardening. So that's something that I value. I want to know your perspectives, how deeply, how broadly are you thinking about gardening, what kind of strategies do you have? And so I thought it was interesting from that perspective, and I'm going to tell you a couple of the angles she comes at gardening from that I thought were interesting. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about the bonuses that I've participated in so far. So first of all, let's talk about how the book is constructed. It's basically broken into seasons. She identifies 4 different types of seasons: cold, cool, warm, and hot. And she gives you some measurements to figure out if the month that you're in is in this season or not. That was probably the most interesting part of this book, is just categorizing my own climate into these seasons. So in one of the bonuses, the 2025 monthly planner, that's in my opinion, the most useful bonus. She has this little chart that says chart your seasons, and it has these tables. I'll take a picture of this and show it to you. It has months on one side and then high and low average temperatures in columns, and then you label what the season is: cold, cool, warm, or hot. And then I also added a little column for rain, because when I did the search, it told me how much rain we got, and I thought that was interesting. So it turns out, according to her measurements, I only have cool and warm temperatures here in my Zone 8B, Western Washington Maritime Climate Garden. And so that was interesting to identify. I also wrote on mine when my first and last frost are. My last frost is mid-March. My first frost is late October, early November. So I went ahead and made a note of that. And then she breaks the months into chunks of plant, tend, and harvest. So that was interesting to me because since I'm not primarily a vegetable farmer, I don't tend to think of things in those terms, in terms of when I plant and how long it takes until harvest. So that just sort of made me think about things a little bit differently. So according to this measurement, there's basically 4 cycles in a year, and you kind of have to identify, is your cycle of 3 months cool or warm or hot or cold? And she gives you some examples in the book, and I basically have cool from January to March, warm from April to June, warm from July to September, and cool from October to December. I think that that's oversimplifying it a little bit, but again, just kind of an interesting perspective on how to look at things. And then she gives you plant family lists of what types of things you can plant in cool seasons and warm seasons and things like that. And then I went through and highlighted what things I can just plant all the time. So for example, all year I should be able, according to her list, I should be able to grow garlic, onions, chives, Swiss chard, parsley, arugula, kale, oregano, rosemary, sage, and thyme. And then she has a few flowers in there, but not many. So the other things in her monthly planner that I thought were interesting were this Tend Your Garden list. She breaks tending your garden down into 5 categories: feed, support, protect, prune, and defend. So that's kind of an interesting framework to look at what it means to tend your garden. And then she also broke down, according to your season, plant sizes. So aesthetically, if you want, or functionally for sun, you want larger or taller plants in the center or in the back of your garden bed, and then smaller things along the edges or the front. And so she breaks the edible plants that she's focused on into those different heights for planting. So that was kind of a fun little thing. And then the rest of the planner is basically like habit trackers and things for planting, which I don't particularly need right now. If somebody wanted that and was looking for that, it would be a great resource for it. The other bonuses that she's offering right now are her plate planting method course, which is basically her take on square foot gardening. So if you already know about square foot gardening, might not be really new information for you, but was really a quick watch. I think I watched it in under a half an hour. She has a pest control guidebook, which was kind of nice. It's broken into regions, and so I could skip right to my Western US, I can't remember what she called it, region, and then a list of common pests and what she does organically to address those pests. So that might be a nice little resource to have. And then the other one is a kitchen garden to table course. Again, this isn't my most interest. I'm not that interested in this topic. But I was interested in the beginning of the videos, her showing her mature vegetable garden, what it looks like, and her process of harvesting. And I always like to listen to gardeners sort of talk out loud while they're harvesting or thinking about why they grew things or thinking about when to harvest or what they look like, the health of the plants. So she kind of walked through her garden and was talking out loud about the health of the plants, and the stage that they were at and why she was making the decision she was making. So that part of it was interesting to me. The book itself is $25. That seems like a lot for a little book, considering there's a lot of big gardening books out there that are $25. So I'm not sure why it's priced that way, maybe because it's a hardback. I don't know if by itself I would say the book is worth $25, but again, I'm coming from more of a flower gardener and more of an experienced gardener perspective. If I was a brand new gardener, wasn't sure if I wanted to do more flowers, more veggies, whatever, I think this book would be great. One thing this does contribute, I think I haven't talked about this yet, is she really focuses on 5-minute chunks. Obviously, the 5-minute gardener. So she gives you lots of ideas of what you can go do in your garden if you only have 5 to 10 minutes or a couple minutes to go out and do things. And so as somebody with ADHD or who struggles with overwhelm and having too many things to do in the garden and not being able to organize your thoughts and know and prioritize and know what to do first, it can be nice to have lists of things to just look at and see what catches your attention, or see oh, that thing really needs to get done now, and then go do it. So she does have lists at the end of each of the season sections in here that are called quick picks. And you can read through the list and pick what it is that you want to go do with this 5 minutes that you have right now. She breaks those lists into month 1 planting, month 2 tending, and month 3 harvesting. Again, how useful that is depends on if you really are doing harvesting or not. But I still think these lists are interesting. For example, under the cool season for month 1 planting, she says things like order warm season seeds, plant more microgreens, soak seeds for sprouting, rinse sprouted seeds, order seed potatoes, plant flower border, plant herb border. So that doesn't sound like a 5-minute thing to me. But those are things that have to be done. And maybe you could plan some of those things or shop for 5 minutes or whatever it is that you're doing. She also has throughout the chapter these little sections that say, give me 5. And she says, got 5 minutes, here's a few tasks you can accomplish. And then she lists tasks within the book too. Keep harvesting these things, harvest these things, stir fry these things for dinner. just little suggestions for that. So that can be nice if you're looking for something like that. Again, the book is broken mostly into these different seasons. So if you can kind of see the spine of my book here, I tried to separate the pages so you can see how big they are. So this whole section right here, I just paper clipped it together because I don't need it. This is the cold season. I don't have a cold season according to her. And this one over here is the warm season, and I don't have a warm season. So like half of the book I can't even use. And then these two in the middle are for me, cool and warm season. So that's a little bit of a waste of the book as far as not being able to use the whole thing. But at least it's pretty clear how she's breaking up the book and which parts are useful to you or that you should just skip over. So I do find that framework interesting. I find the 5-minute approach interesting. I think some of her recommendations are lacking a little bit about what you can actually accomplish during certain months. But again, gardeners are always going to kind of bicker a little bit about when you should do things or how things should be done, especially in your different climates. So I'm not surprised that I don't agree with every recommendation she's making. Also, I wish there were more flowers. She tries to mention things like calendula and chamomile and things, but for example, she says calendula will grow during the cool season and not the warm season, which I disagree with. It grows more during my warm season than my cool season. So not the strongest on the flower gardener side of things. But I do like this seasonal chart, and I'd like to try to like map some other things that I do onto this chart, like bulb planting or seed starting, perennial seed starting, things that are very different than what she's doing in this book, and just see how that framework works for me. So as far as recommendations for who would benefit from this book, if you're a new gardener, if you're looking for ways to incorporate more gardening into your life, this is a good fit for you. I think she hit the nail on the head. I think that's what she was going for. If you're an experienced gardener with more than 10 years worth of experience, probably don't need this book. If you're just focused on flowers, probably don't need this book. If you have heard that a friend of yours is interested in gardening, buy them this book for a gift. It would be fun. Or if they're always tinkering with growing a basil that keeps dying from the grocery store on their windowsill or something, buy them this book, right? That it would be great for that sort of thing. So I guess my conclusion is that I recommend this book with caveats. If you're super experienced or just a flower farmer, don't buy it. Everybody else, I think you'd get something out of it. It's always interesting to learn how experienced gardeners are categorizing and thinking about and approaching gardening. And I definitely learned something from her in this book about how she's thinking about gardening. So thanks for joining me. I hope you learned something about this book. Let me know in the comments if you ended up purchasing it, what you think about it. And I hope to see you again in the greenhouse soon.